In 2006, developer Simon Hall began working on a Nintendo DS homebrew port of Quake. The id Software Classic had just turned 10 at the time and had popularized the use of fully 3D graphics in first-person shooters. Simon would release the third and final version of his port in 2007, and with the advent of the R4 and other flashcards for the DS, Quake fans now had a fully playable version of the game on the first Nintendo handheld built with 3D graphics hardware. Although Quake has been ported to the Nintendo 3DS, not as many people are familiar with the multiple ports built by the homebrew community that run on original DS hardware. Today, I'm going to show you how to get your own copy of my favorite of these ports and how to run it on the original Nintendo DS. The first thing we need to do is download QuakeDS, and we want the third release of QuakeDS, which is the most up-to-date and the most polished version. Fortunately, this is still available for download with the Internet Archive, and I'll link to this in the description below. But you basically want to go to that link and scroll down to the Downloads link, click on that, and then go under Release 3, and it should be the first file, the first zip file, which is that Release 3. This contains the binary, the .nds ROM for QuakeDS, which we'll use to play the game once we've added the game data as well. So with that downloaded zip file, I'm just going to extract it and verify that we have the binary. And as you can see, we have QuakeDS.nds, and that's the QuakeDS ROM, the build that we'll be using. In most cases, you won't have to worry about patching the ROM, but especially if you have an older Nintendo DS flash cart, there's a small chance that if you're having trouble finding the game data when you try to play the game, that you might need to patch the ROM. So if that's the case, you just want to go to the DLDI link under that Release 3, and you'll see patches for a number of older flash carts, as well as links to software that you can use for patching. The flash cart that I'm using is one of the original R4s. You can still pick up a R4 flash cart that functions in the same way from Amazon and elsewhere, and they're relatively inexpensive. On my R4, I did not need to patch QuakeDS, and it ran just fine. Now, the next thing we need to do is download the actual game data so that the ROM can use that for playing the game. Fortunately, this is available also on the Internet Archive, and I'll put a link to this in the description below as well. This contains the ID1 folder that has the pack file you need from the Shareware release of Quake that you can use to play the game. You can also use the full version of the game if you own that. But I'm going to download this zip file and extract it, and then inside that folder we have the ID1 folder, which contains the pack file, which is like a WAD file for Doom, but this is for Quake. And I'm just going to paste that in right next to the ROM. So right next to QuakeDS.nds, we have the ID1 folder, and inside that we have pack0.pack. We now have everything we need to actually run the game, so I just want to copy this over to my flash cart, and we should be able to play it on the Nintendo DS. So now I'm going to take the flash cart out of my DS and take the micro SD out of that and put the micro SD in my computer, and then just copy over that folder, that Release 3 folder that we have, over to the flash cart. So I'm going to select that folder and I'm going to copy it. Then I'm going to go over to the micro SD and paste it there. Now, one more thing, you're going to have to make sure that the ID1 game data folder is in the root directory of your flash cart so that the game can access it. So I'm just going to drag and drop it into the root directory. And once we do that, we can see that it's at the root level, and if we open it, we can of course see our game data and the config file. And so I'll now eject the micro SD, and put it back into the flash cart and then back into the Nintendo DS. And so I'm now just going to boot up the Nintendo DS and see if it worked. So this will boot directly into the R4 menu. And from there, we can go down to the Release 3 folder that we copied over. And then we can just click on QuakeDS. And so now it's loading in the game data. And it looks like everything loaded correctly and the game is running. This is a great port for the Nintendo DS, and I still play it from time to time. There's also a multiplayer version that you can download in that same download link, and if you use this version, you can even play cross-play between a Nintendo DS and a PC, which is a pretty cool feature released back in 2007. People have been porting Quake to handhelds for over 2 decades now, and there's a lot of cool options you can check out if you want to play Quake in a handheld form factor. One of the modern ways to do this is with a retro emulation handheld like the one you see here with this Anbernic RG353PS. These handhelds can play Quake very smoothly, and it's a lot of fun to have Quake on the go. If you're interested in playing a multiplayer game of Quake on a retro handheld against a PC player, kind of like I was doing in the other clip with QuakeDS, you can learn how to do so by checking out my tutorial on zerodayarcade.com/tutorials. This will show you how to use a modern retro handheld like an Anbernic RG353 to play a multiplayer game against a PC player and how to set that up. And of course, if you like this kind of content, then check out the other videos on my channel where we discuss homebrew and programming and the various things you can do with different gaming consoles.